There is no one else. And the Spy Master was right to insist that I send you.
Hey everybody, this is Strat-Edgy, and this is my review of Dishonored, which was released on the PS3, Xbox 360, and PC on, I don't know, some fucking date. It was a long time ago. Look, Dishonored is a weird game to review, because depending on how you play the game, you can have two totally different opinions on it. But in fact, my first playthrough with this game was riddled with frustration.
We can't lose any more men. Touch
And boredom, which left me feeling like this was a problem on the part of the design of the game. And while I may have been right, I may have only been half right. So with this sequel, the sequel to this game being shown at E3, let me take this as an opportunity to milk those YouTube views for all they're worth and tell you what I thought of the first game and how I think they can improve upon the next. Now, when I first started playing Dishonored, which is right around the time it was released, I had mixed feelings. Now, I loved the first mission where you're forced to break out of prison, and all the expository cutscenes really laid the framework for your motivations and so on, but right around the time when you get to meet, which is arguably one of the most fascinating characters in the game, the Outsider, things start to get muddy really quick. Alright. So let's break this down into categories, shall we? Let's talk about performance first. Alright, well the game seems to run really well on my mid-range PC, but with anything older than a GTX 960, I don't know. The load times are good, the frame rate is steady, and I didn't seem to have any issues with hitching. The real problems come from the level design being broken up into several areas separated by loading screens. This game is another one of those cross-platform titles that really makes me miss PC-exclusive titles. Consoles just don't have the resources to handle large, expansive areas, and the constant loading screens really breaks up the pacing. But it also brings in another problem. See, even if you don't mind all of that, there is the issue of not being able to see what is on the other side of a door before you click on it to load up a new area. For all you know, there could be a guard on the other side, and you end up having to design levels around the fact that there must be a good couple of yards between the entrance to a room and where the first guard is, because you don't want to catch players off guard when they enter a room. What this leads to is a bit of very predictable level design, that when you enter into a new area, you know that you're safe in that entrance. Nothing is going to ambush you there, because that would be unfair. Now this works, but it's not exactly realistic now, is it? I mean, guards would be posted at the entrances, inside and out, wouldn't they? I mean, but these levels cannot be designed this way because of the need for loading screens. Not every area suffers from this, but quite a few do, and it's just very weird. And I don't know why we're still doing this with the kind of hardware that we're using. But the loading screens are thankfully short. There's just so goddamn many of them, man. And that brings us to story. See, as a player, I kind of cared less about the motivations of the people I was working with. As far as I was concerned, they just acted as mission terminals. Like most of the voice acting in this game, the characters are played with this sort of strange, inflectionless tone where nothing seems to matter.
The men who murdered the Empress. Sorry, you must be exhausted.
For you, I will create the tools of a master assassin.
But on the Outsider, that tone works.
My mark in the lonely places of your world, and at shrines raised in my name.
But not on everybody. Yet everyone is played that way. The story is really nothing to write home about. It's like simply a vessel through which the gameplay is poured out, but it's also not bad. It's just kind of existing in this space in between good and bad. The writing is clear, the factions are interesting, and their motivations are somewhat believable, and a lot of intricacies of the story can be found in books and notes should you be interested, and it can be read later in your journal, but if you're not doing any of that busy work, like reading all these entries, you're not really getting the full experience, and I feel like that's kind of a shame. I mean, Thief did this to a point, but not as expansive as this game does, or like any of the Bethesda slash developer games seem to be doing nowadays. Now, the Outsiders realm is where the story and gameplay dissonance comes in and really starts to eat away at me. So it seems like the designers were trying to make two different games here and decided that both ideas were really good and couldn't part with one of them and decided to keep both. Now, let me explain this. See, the game could have been carried completely by the Outsider and his realm alone. We didn't need the rebels and their boring-ass, run-of-the-mill plot to overthrow the government. Because all they act as, like I said, they're just mission terminals, right? And the Outsider's realm could have acted as a hub between missions instead of the Hound Pits, which it seems like it was actually supposed to be because the story is actually told through images here, and it's actually more effective. Everything that you need to know to set up your motivations and the world are told to you here. So instead of telling us the story, they show it. And that type of visual storytelling really has a hell of a lot more impact than the expository dumps we get with the people back in the real world. One renders the other redundant and really drags the pace down. I mean, just look at this interaction with Emily. I get a lot of info here. I know where Emily is. I know that she is being mistreated. I know who's holding her, and that makes Hulk mad. And from her letter, I know exactly what my goal should be. Emily is alive. I must get Emily. Instead, we have to be told that by Colonel Emotionless and his squad of the Uncanny Valley. And nowhere else in the game is the dissonance between the two stories felt the strongest than in the gameplay. This game centers around infiltration, exploration, and assassination. Now, the exploration is pretty deep, and there is often several waves into one area, with many ways to exploit the level design to take shortcuts. Exploration also rewards you with runes and charms, which increase the levels of your powers and grant you special bonuses, respectively. It's all run-of-the-mill stuff, but the exploration is admittedly deep. Assassinating someone can be straightforward. Apply pointy object to tender spot, mission accomplished. Or you can get tricky. In most missions, there are several ways to kill a person, with most levels giving you at least two options, one more satisfying than the other, and it's actually fun to go through the same level, seeing all the horrific ways people can die. At least it was fun for me. Does that say something about my personality? Now, you're supposed to be an assassin that spares all but his target, yet you are given these powers that are, quite frankly, some of the coolest looking and funniest fucking things to do in a game in recent memory. Not to mention the easiest way to play the game. I mean, there's nothing more satisfying than unleashing a fucking storm of rats on a guard and watching him being ripped to shreds.
Tear him up. Goodbye, Ben.
But the game actively wags its finger at you and tells you, hey, don't kill people! What are you doing? So why didn't I enjoy this the first playthrough? Well, that's the game's fault, quite honestly, because underneath the boring stealth is an insanely fun game. The powers encourage you to fight, and the sometimes clairvoyant guard seeing you around corners encourages you to play around with some of your abilities to overcome obstacles. But at the same time, the game punishes you for doing so with the chaos levels, a kind of meter that fills every time you kill someone and causes the game to get harder with smarter and more numerous enemies in following levels. Oh, I'm sorry, game. I wasn't playing it the way you wanted me to. Gee, I had the feeling that I was supposed to do this shit. You offered me the fucking option, after all. Anyway, it actually causes the story to change as well, and so while the game will encourage multiple playthroughs, I have never been able to do a true stealth playthrough because the game just isn't fun to play that way. I love Thief, but it was because it was a game that was focused around stealth. When I am faced with a room full of enemies, I have the option of dark sighting and clearing the room one enemy at a time, or I could go through and crossbow the guy with an exploding arrow, shoot rats from my hands and another guy, and flintlock the dude in his fucking dome piece. Which sounds more fun to you? Yeah, the weapons feel good to shoot, the powers are fun to use, and the environment provides you with multiple ways around a problem. It's just unfortunate that the direct route is often the funnest. The core gameplay in Dishonored centers around killing people. So let me hammer a nail into this dead horse's eye real quick. This is a stealth game that centers around killing people, then punishes you for killing people. Now, before you start masturbating your keyboard furiously in the comment section, I know the game only requires you to kill 1 or 2, sometimes 3 targets, and the rest is up to you. But fact's a fact, Jack! It's a game about being an assassin who isn't supposed to kill innocents, but has all these awesome fucking powers that are used specifically to kill people in awesome ways. It's the equivalent of God giving you nerve endings in your dick and then telling you not to stick it in a warm apple pie. The game also has side quests, but unlike in most games where all you ever do is seem to fetch this or deliver this, this game puts you into a situation where you are making decisions that will shape the outcome of the short-term and long-term story. Side missions that could take you up to an hour easily, that are completely optional, by the way. You can literally skip these areas, no harm, no foul. But depending on what you decide to do, you will have drastic changes on the city and what happens in the future. One decision has you turning the innocents of the city into zombies. It's literally that impactful, and it's that optional. You don't even have to fucking do it. You can ignore it. Now, one problem I did have is that sometimes you can screw up the scripting in the game, so game-breaking bugs will occur, and it only seems to happen when you are very aggressive. For instance, I went in guns blazing into Campbell's office, killing every guard I could, and I found that when I got to Campbell's office, there were no drinks on the table, or a bottle. When I looked through the keyhole, there they were, doing their little idle animation, you know, flipping each other off visually with their fucking hands, but no matter how hard I tried, I could not get the door open or trigger the event to have them coming out of the fucking back room. It was very fucking frustrating. To compound this problem, I ended up having to restart the entire mission over, skip all the side quests, which happened on a previous playthrough, actually, so this is the second time it fucking happened. This bug is common enough to warrant a patch, yet it has never been patched. Thanks, Obama!
So, as an addendum here, I actually went into Dishonored to try and record more footage for the video, and it's kind of funny, I actually could not start the game again. I ended up validating the integrity of the files and everything else, and I came to find out that this is actually a rather common problem now with people not being able to start the game. It just looks like it's going to start, and it never does. So that's something you're going to want to think about before you go and buy the game, is there's a good chance that you may have to go through a whole lot of shit just to get it started and just to get it to run well. I don't understand why this is a problem. All of a sudden. I never had problems with it before, but from what I understand, there's some kind of problem with the PhysX engine, and you have to do all this craziness, and, you know, messing with config files and all that crap in order to get it running again. So if I ever get it running again, maybe I'll update this video, but at this time I actually could not play it.
So now we'll talk about everybody's favorite subject, and that's graphics. Now, I've heard a lot of people bemoaning the art style of this game, saying the proportions are ridiculous, or they didn't like the cartoony style, to which I say, huh? I mean, I like the style. I like those gigantic hands that people have. It makes me wonder how they don't get, you know, depressed jerking off. But you have to give the artist credit here. They created a style that was original as well as uniform across the board. I mean, often you get the style that looks nice in characters, but you lose that sense of style when designing mundane shit like dumpsters and buildings, but not here. Everything looks like it belongs in this world. And for graphic cores, this game's pretty visually stunning. I mean, even in today's standards. I mean, in a world where Bethesda can't ship Fallout 4 with God rays that don't make your game dip into the low teen frame rate wise, it's refreshing to see a game look this good and run well on a mid-range PC. I mean, I can't run Fallout 4 right now without my fucking computer bursting into flames. The design of this level, the levels are such that the story can be told through the level, meaning that what you see in the level gives you an impression of what happens there on a day-to-day basis and what is currently happening as well. It's the kind of visual storytelling that this game seems to do so well, but seems to not have faith in. You know, it's like every chance they get, they got these expository dumps from these characters, and you don't need any of it, because all the details are fucking there in the level. It was as if the game was designed one way, and they threw all the expository shit, like the hound pits and all that crap, in later. I mean, I'm pretty sure they didn't, but god damn it, that's how it feels. Sound. So, now I've heard that the developers from Looking Glass Studios were involved in this game, and to that I have to say a resounding, really? Because you can't fucking tell. Listen, the people who designed Thief did some amazing shit with 3D positional audio. Not many people know this, but they were one of the first games that I can remember that used audio cues to tell you where shit was. Okay, now for instance, you didn't have all this fancy hand-holding bullshit like you did in the newest Thief game, the reboot. You know, where you could see through fucking walls, essentially wall hacks. They didn't have that shit. So back then they had to tell you where guards were through either sound or through clever things like being able to peek around corners, designing levels in a way that you could get a vantage point on a guard without alerting him, and other parts where you would end up alerting them if you tried to peek. It was a really good way of making the player think and be careful when playing the game. And that's what's missing from this game, okay? You will not grow to appreciate any of the sound effects in this game because there fucking are none. I can't tell you the last time I heard a fucking footstep. You know why? Because the goddamn music is playing so fucking loud over everything you can't hear nothing. And not that there's anything there. I mean, I'm sure there's footsteps in the game, but I can't hear them. I had to turn my music all the way down and I still couldn't fucking hear them. You know why? You know why? Because of the dark sight skill. Dark sight takes all the challenge out of the stealth of this game. It's a fucking wall hack, okay? A fucking wall hack. And from the developers of Thief, I expected a little bit more. I mean, why would I lean around a corner and listen for footsteps? Or put my ear to a door? Or look through a fucking keyhole when I can literally see through walls like fucking Superman! Now, the casual conversations that you can eavesdrop in on give me this nostalgic feeling that harkens back to Thief, but it's somehow not the same. The dialogue seems to be thrown in to fill out somebody's backstory, or to give plot points, but never is there just an irreverent conversation about going to the bear pits.
Hey, I'm going to the bear pits tomorrow. You want to come with? Couldn't pay me enough. What? You soft belly. The bears have got these new muzzles with underslung.
It was those little touches that made the game charming and made you feel like you were a part of the world, whereas Dishonored, their dialogue just makes you feel like you're being told a fucking story. And a bad one. If the voice acting is subpar at best, I don't even think you can call it acting. I mean, it's not like the talent weren't talented. They were. But I think the directing just left something to be desired. Everything in the game is so emotionally barren that it's just very hard to get into. It's recorded very well, however, and the mixing of the sound never gets in the way of the voice talent. Meaning you can hear everything they're saying regardless of the noise in the background. And that's pretty fucking sad when that's the only positive thing I could say about the voice acting is that it's clear. You know? This game had a lot of potential, but there's just too much going on in it. It's not focused enough to be a stealth game, and while the design is there to force it, the game gives you too many options to ignore it completely. Now, so what's the verdict? Well, I know it may sound like I didn't like this game, and on my first playthrough, I was bored out of my mind. I hated it. I didn't like it at all. I couldn't tell you one good thing about the game. I think I got probably to the 5th mission, and I said, fuck this, and never picked it up again. Now that's telling. I was bored. You know, my mistake was thinking that this was a Thief game. And hey, You cannot fault me for thinking that they promoted the fuck out of this game by saying, from the developers of Thief, you know, which is horseshit. And I tried to play it like a Thief game. But I am telling you now, if you try to play this like Thief, you will most likely be bored, because this game is a playground for special abilities. That's it. I like this game much more on a second playthrough, but that doesn't mean it doesn't suffer from some truly unfortunate game design decisions and an inability to focus and commit to one gameplay style. That's why I'm going to give this a 7 out of 10 bananas in a bedsheet. Why is the banana there? I don't know. It doesn't add anything to the experience of sleeping. I just thought it'd be a nice feature to throw in there. Y'all stay frosty, bitches. This has been Strat-Edgy coming at you with this review. I'm going to be doing a lot of these kind of reviews. I really liked writing this one. And, you know, if you want to hear more of these kind of reviews on new and old retro games, just subscribe below. You know, hit me up on Twitter. Give me a follow on that old Twitter thing. You know what I mean? Leave a comment below. Hit the like button. All that bullshit. And I will see you next time. Peace.